never ascended to my father's throne does not cripple me. That I lost my only son Keyboard to the senseless, ruthless Ingoroka warrior's sword in that ugly battle does not make me weak. I am no lesser member of the Chumo. That I still believe in the mighty power and supremacy of my people is not a hallucination. The young boy will grow. My grandson, Kip Tewo, will traverse plains and plateaus, hills and rivers of this Kibangara. He will bless this powerful land of the great Kaliets. I trust his courage.
Chumyat, speaking to no one in particular, reassured himself as he sat on a sleek stone at the top of the Kibangara hill. He observed the eye-catching scenery isolating itself from the surrounding and its unique physical features. The chirping of birds, the splash of water from the streams that meandered between the cliffs, the vines that struggled to find their way up the cliffs added splendor to the amazing view. From the towering peak of Kibangara Hill, the overlapping gullies on the escarpments were visible. When the rays of the morning or evening sun hit the slopes of the hill, it exposed a golden, flaming, and bewitching sight of the savanna plains. For a moment of thought, he was happy and thrilled.
This is my land. This is my grandson's land. We belong here.
Carparcodio and Carpaswar rivers align themselves, with Capaswar's catchment sourcing from the middle of Kibangara Hill. On the other hand, Carparcodio water flowed from the peak of Kibangara Hill. The two rivers gracefully meandered down the hill and merged at Ngubanodo Gorge. Bushes, vegetation and shrubs rose along the banks of the two major rivers. The lush vegetation in the riparian environment was magical. The neighboring communities graced their herds of cattle and flocks of sheep around these unique zones. They also drew water for domestic use and bathed in the clear cold flowing water from the hills. Green carpet-like lawns of grazing fields comprising grassland dotted with shrubs and thorny bushes decorated the area. Such vegetation dried during the arid dry seasons. The vegetation changed below eastern and western escarpments. Regularly between seasons, whirlwinds and chilly breezes blew gently across the land, cooling and calming down the flaming furnace. The rainy and dry seasons alternated as climatic conditions changed. Karliat area that hosted pastoralists and hunters was located in the massive escarpments of the savanna. The pastoralists in the region occasionally gathered honey from the heavy forests that harbored bee colonies. The Karliat paramount chiefs, together with their council of elders, listened to disputes and resolved them amicably, thus enhancing peace and harmony among the residents. The traditional leaders and council of elders also handled other duties, such as overseeing graduating warriors, administering oaths to the warriors, and advising them before they went for war. Besides this, the elders selected divine leaders to lead prayers, sacrifice to the gods and ceremonies such as marriages.
Since time immemorial, we have embraced the warmness of Kibangara. Our gods protected us. We have fought for this very land and for our cattle, our women and our children, and we have lived here long enough to tuck our tales of cowardice. For now, I will go and rest, but I will remind my boy. I will tell Kip Tewo that a mouse only celebrates in the absence of the cat, but the cat is not dead.
He declared, rose with the help of his walking stick and slowly headed home. Women took care of children, milked cows, fetched water and firewood beside other domestic chores. Girls helped their mothers while fathers taught boys how to protect their families and look after their cattle. Boys were also taught the hunting of wild animals and ways of defending their community. Both boys and girls were ushered into adulthood after elaborate circumcision rituals. A sequence of 7 age sets across generations marked circumcision as a rite of passage. Upon circumcision, a young man assumed duty as a warrior to the community. He married as soon as he graduated. A young woman could get married henceforth. The Carliot warriors were so powerful that they dominated the battlefield for a long period. They defeated and took control of the Ngoroko people, their immediate neighbors. However, their battle supremacy was short-lived. Their dominance of the battlefield and strength to thwart the constant attacks and raids from Ngoroko community, their longtime enemy, faded with time. The Ngoroko learned and mastered Carliot's art of war before the ultimate invasion that saw the Ngoroko people defeat the Carliot people. The Ngoroko regularly sent detectives to spy on the Carliot community. Women and children whom Carliot warriors abducted before assisted the spies to gather vital information. Within no time the Ngoroko built up a strong army. The warriors were exposed to regular, harsh training. The divine leaders administered oaths. The warriors and their leaders vowed to fight and defeat their enemy. On the other hand, the Carliot warriors underestimated their enemy. They did little preparation for the war ahead. They took Ngoroko warriors for granted. Whenever Ngoroko warriors retaliated, Carliot warriors took them for granted. They never engaged in serious strife with the Ngoroko warriors. As a result, Ngoroko warriors got an opportunity to gauge their battle strength with Carliot warriors. For decades, the two communities battled. Competition for grazing grounds, water resources, and territorial boundaries fueled their strife. Either community felt disadvantaged by the other. Every time one community overpowered the other, it did not only take away livestock, women and children, but also reclaimed some of its land by pushing them further from their borders. This resulted into recurrent territorial conflicts. Prospects of future exploitation of mineral deposits discovered in the regions by scientists worsened the situation. Men died protecting their sovereignty. On the eventual day, the Ngoroko warriors descended on Carliot land before dawn. Dark Columbus clouds, a breeze descending from the hills to the Caliads plateaus pushed the Ngoroko warriors to their enemies. The night horror assured a sad dawn. Antelopes dashed from one bush to another. Hares rushed for their safety as jackals teased the fearless warriors before timidly escaping the wrath of their sharp spears and swords. Swiftly and calmly, the Ngoroko warriors moved. From the north of Carliot, they rolled through the least guarded area to the jaws of the most ferocious Carliot warriors. One after the other, they captured the sleeping Carliot warriors who took cover in the bushes and confiscated their weapons. They speared to death some of the Carliot warriors who tried to fight back. Spreading all over, thousands of Ngoroko warriors surrounded the Carliot land.
This great tranquility in our land should forever reign. Our animals, vast stretches of land and slaves from our neighbor Ngoroko, all these should bring peace and optimism of livelihood to our land. I'm sure they don't have the guts to face the mighty Carliot warriors. We are the winners, and we are brave. We are unstoppable.
In his little speech to his camp companions, Kipyegon declared in a somewhat mockery attitude against his opponent, Ngoroko. He believed his leadership instincts, and having trained the Carliots himself, he was confident that no opponent would be their match in any battleground. Hubris clouded his judgment, and he mistakenly underestimated Ngoroko warriors this time. Systematically, the Ngoroko warriors maneuvered across Carliot's homesteads. Some of them took to Carliot's cattle and sheep sheds, while others targeted their homes. The guards on duty that night faced the full wrath as they encountered the merciless Ngoroko warriors. By break of dawn, the Ngoroko warriors encircled the Carliots' homesteads waiting for an attack. Kiptanui, Ngoroko's warrior leader, took a lighter and lit a burner before placing it on a grass-thatched roof belonging to Kipyegon, one of the Carliot warriors' trainers. Kiptanui took a few steps backwards, and watched the blazing hut for a while before initiating an attack order. Within no time, the doors were flying open as the warriors stormed into them. They drugged Carliots out of their huts and paraded them in front of their huts. Women and children were crowded before their homesteads, where they watched their huts set ablaze and burn to ashes. Ngoroko warriors drove away Carliots' animals. Smoke and the smell of burnt thatches filled the air. The Ngoroko warriors led the captives across the plateaus and plains to their homes. The Carliots' hornblowers took to the air after they spotted the joyous Ngoroko warriors approaching the territory. In front of them were herds of animals, confiscated from Carliots' homesteads. In between, Carliot women and children followed, guarded heavily. Ngoroko warriors roughed the captives as they drove them to Ngoroko land. By the fall of the night, on the fortnight, they all arrived to Ngoroko land. Drummers, women, dancers and ululations to celebrate the victory became the warmest welcome the warriors received. It was the darkest day of Carliot.